Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the impossible happen through the viewport. Stars stretched and compressed around them, colors bleeding into wavelengths human eyes were never meant to see. Then, with a sound like reality tearing in half, they were there, hanging in the void above Vakros Prime, the throne world of an empire that had never known defeat. "Full drive successful," Lieutenant Chen reported, his voice steady despite the sweat on his brow. "We've jumped 11,000 light-years in 0 elapsed time. Navigation confirms we're in the Vakros home system." Elena allowed herself one breath of relief. The full drive had been theoretical until 3 minutes ago. They'd bet everything. Earth's survival, humanity's future, their own lives, on mathematics that existed only in quantum computers and the desperate hope that human stubbornness could bend the universe itself. Through the observation window, Vakros Prime filled the view, a world of gleaming towers and orbital rings, surrounded by a defense fleet so massive it looked like a metal moon. Hundreds of warships, each one larger than a city. Weapons platforms that could crack planets. Shield generators that had never been breached. "They haven't detected us yet," Chen said, studying his console. The fold signature is unlike anything in the detection protocols. Elena's jaw tightened. 6 months ago, the Vakros Scout fleet had arrived at Earth broadcasting a simple ultimatum: submit to Imperial rule or face extinction. They'd given humanity 72 hours. World leaders had panicked. Some prepared to surrender. Others wanted to fight with weapons that were laughably primitive compared to Vakros technology. But a team of scientists at CERN had proposed something insane. They'd been experimenting with folding space-time, creating tiny bubbles where normal physics didn't apply. What if they could scale it up? What if they could build a ship that didn't travel through space but folded it, stepping from one point to another without crossing the distance between? What if they could make a warship appear from nothing, where it was least expected? The world had united for the first time in human history. Every nation contributed resources, knowledge, materials. They'd built a Defiance in secret, in a facility hidden on the dark side of the moon. They'd packed it with every weapon humanity had ever conceived: nuclear warheads, railguns, directed energy weapons, even experimental antimatter charges. It wasn't elegant. It was a flying arsenal built by a species that had spent its entire existence perfecting the art of war. Vakros Command is hailing the defense fleet. Communications Officer Park interrupted. They're confused. Sensors are detecting a mass signature, but no energy readings, no engine signatures. They don't know what we are. Let's enlighten them, Elena said. Park, open a channel. Broadcast on all Vakros frequencies. The bridge fell silent. This was the moment they'd rehearsed 1,000 times, knowing they'd only get one chance to make the Empire understand what humanity was. "This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Warship Defiance to the Vakros Empire," she began, her voice carrying across 11,000 light-years of space to the species that threatened her world. 6 months ago, you came to our planet and gave us a choice: surrender or die. You expected primitives. You expected fear. You expected submission. She paused, letting her words sink in. You chose the wrong species. Humanity doesn't surrender. We adapt. We innovate. We fight. This ship didn't travel here. It folded space itself. Your sensors can't track it because it operates outside your understanding of physics. Your weapons can't target what doesn't exist in normal space-time. And right now, we're sitting in orbit above your throne world, uninvited and undetected until this moment. Alarm klaxons began wailing across Vakros Prime's defense network. The fleet was scrambling, but they were moving slowly, confused by a threat they couldn't categorize. "We don't want to destroy you," Elena continued, "but we will if you force us. Withdraw your forces from Earth. Leave humanity alone. Or learn what happens when you threaten a species that split the atom before we left our own planet, that turned information into a weapon, that looked at the laws of physics and decided they were merely suggestions." Lieutenant Chen's console erupted with data. "Commander, they're powering weapons. 300 ships converging on our position. Full drive status?" Elena demanded. "Charge and ready. We can jump on your command." Through the viewport, The Vakros fleet was moving into attack formation, a wall of metal and energy that had conquered 1,000 worlds. They were fast, coordinated, overwhelming, but they were also predictable, following doctrine that assumed their enemies would still be there when their weapons fired. Target the orbital ring structure. Section 7. Elena ordered, fire one antimatter charge. Let them see what we brought. The weapons officer hesitated for only a second. Firing. A lance of light erupted from the Defiance, crossing the distance in a heartbeat. It struck the massive ring structure that encircled Vakros Prime. Not the planet itself, but a symbol of their power. The explosion was visible from space, a flowering bloom of annihilation that vaporized a 50-kilometer section of metal and composite materials. The Vakros fleet froze. Now, Elena said quietly, they understand. Park, final message. Withdraw from Earth, or we fold into your space again. Next time, we won't aim at an empty structure. You have 72 hours to decide. Commander, Chin said urgently, massive energy spike across their entire fleet. They're preparing to fire everything. Elena smiled grimly. Then we leave. Full drive, execute. Reality twisted. Star screamed. And the Defiance vanished, leaving the Vakros Empire staring at empty space where a human warship had delivered an impossible ultimatum. Admiral Croft 9 of the Vakros Imperial Fleet watched the empty space where the human vessel had been, his 4 eyes wide with something he hadn't felt in 2 centuries of military service: fear. Around him, the command center of the throne station erupted in chaos. Officers shouted reports, damage assessments scrolled across holographic displays, and the section of orbital ring that had been there moments ago was now expanding debris. Replay the sensor data, he commanded, his voice cutting through the noise. Show me how they appeared. The holographic display flickered. It showed the moment before the human ship arrived. Empty space, no energy signatures, no quantum distortions, nothing. Then, in a single frame, the vessel simply existed. No transition, no approach vector, no warning. One moment, nothing. The next moment, a warship hanging above the throne world like a knife at their throat. That's impossible, breathed Science Officer Telrin, her scales pale with shock. Matter cannot simply materialize. Conservation of energy, causality, the fundamental laws. They broke them, Croft 9 interrupted, or found a way around them. He turned to his communications officer. Give me the High Council. Immediately. Within minutes, the holographic projections of the 12 council members materialized around his command deck. At the center stood Empress Valshera herself, her ceremonial armor gleaming, her expression unreadable. Explain, she said simply. Croft 9 had commanded fleets through 40 campaigns. He'd never failed. He'd never retreated. And he'd never had to tell his Empress that an enemy had struck at the heart of the Empire without firing a shot in defense. The humans possess a technology we cannot counter, he said, choosing his words carefully. They call a full drive. It allows them to appear anywhere, instantly, without crossing the space between. Our sensors detected nothing until they chose to reveal themselves. They destroyed a section of the orbital ring with a weapon that reads as matter-antimatter annihilation, a crude technology by our standards, but delivered with precision we cannot intercept. One of the council members, General Zekdar, slammed a clawed hand against his armrest. One ship. You're telling me one primitive vessel has you cowering? I'm telling you, Croft 9 said coldly, that this primitive vessel appear in our most heavily defended system, deliver its message, and vanish before 300 warships could fire a single shot. If they return, if they fold inside a populated area, inside a city, inside this very station, we cannot stop them. The council chamber fell silent. Empress Valshera studied him for a long moment. What do you recommend, Admiral? We have 72 hours to respond to their ultimatum. I recommend we use that time to understand this fold technology. If we can predict it, counter it, or duplicate it, then we regain the advantage. Until then, you suggest we appear weak. General Zekdar interrupted. You suggest we negotiate with a species that we could sterilize with single fleet action. Could we? Croft 9 challenged. send a fleet to Earth, and they fold again. Where? Here? Into the heart of any world we value. They've proven they can reach us, but we cannot reach them in any meaningful way. This isn't warfare as we know it. This is asymmetric threat projection. Empress Valshera raised one elegant hand, silencing the argument. The Vakros Empire does not negotiate. We have never negotiated. To do so now would signal weakness to every species we control. Then we must destroy the fold technology, another council member suggested. Launch the full armada at Earth. Glass the planet before they can deploy additional vessels. Croft 9 felt his blood chill. That assumes they only built one ship. That assumes the fold drive requires significant infrastructure. What if every major human settlement can now produce these vessels? What if they've hidden construction facilities across their system or beyond? We commit our forces to Earth, and they could fold into Vakros space again. Into a dozen Vakros worlds simultaneously. We'd be fighting shadows. Then what? Empress Valshera's voice carried an edge sharper than steel. We submit? The empire that has conquered 4,000 worlds bows the primitives. I'm not suggesting submission, Croft 9 said carefully. I'm suggesting we buy time. Partially withdraw from Earth. Make it look like we're considering their terms. Meanwhile, our best scientists work to understand or counter the fold drive. We send covert intelligence to Earth to find the weaknesses in their technology. Every weapon has limitations. Every shield has a gap. The Empress studied him, and Croft 9 felt the weight of imperial history pressing down. 3,000 years of expansion, of conquest, of absolute dominance. And now, in one moment, a species they dismissed as beneath notice had changed everything. Very well, Valshera said finally. You have one cycle, 30 days by human reckoning. Withdraw half our forces from the Earth system as a gesture of consideration. Meanwhile, mobilize our science corps. I want to know everything about this fold technology. How it works, how to detect it, how to stop it. And General Zekthar, the general straightened. Prepare contingency plans. If we cannot counter their technology in 30 days, I want options for total warfare. Strategies that don't require us to reach Earth. Stellar destabilization, relativistic kinetic weapons, quantum cascade bombs. If we must destroy their system to eliminate the threat, so be it. Yes, Empress. Zekthar said, satisfaction clear in his voice. The council holographs vanished, leaving Croft 9 alone with his bridge crew. Through the viewport, repair drones were already swarming the damaged section of orbital ring. The debris field glittered like scattered diamonds, a permanent reminder that the Empire was no longer invulnerable. Sir, his intelligence officer approached quietly. We've analyzed the human broadcast. The commander's name, her tone, her phrasing. Everything suggests this was a calculated psychological operation. They wanted us afraid. It worked, Croft 9 admitted. But fear can be useful. It focuses the mind. He pulled up Earth's file on his personal display. A blue-green world, unremarkable by imperial standards. But the species that lived there had done something unprecedented. They looked at an impossible problem and solved it in 6 months. What else could they do if given time? Prepare the fleet for withdrawal, he ordered. Half our forces, as the Empress commanded, but the ships that remain will be our fastest, most advanced vessels. And I want surveillance satellites scattered throughout the system, hidden, passive, watching everything. If the humans build another ship, if they test another fold drive, I want to know the instant it happens. His officers moved to execute the orders, but Croft 9 remained at the viewport, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, 11,000 light-years away, humanity was celebrating. They'd struck at the Empire and survived. They'd bought themselves time. But time was a double-edged sword. The Vakros Empire had resources the humans couldn't imagine, scientists who'd been studying physics for millennia, weapons that could unravel suns. The real question was simple. Could humanity solve every problem as quickly as they'd solved this one? Because if they couldn't, their boldness would become their extinction. Dr. Sarah Chun collapsed into her chair in the Defiance's engineering bay, her hands still shaking from adrenaline. Around her, the full drive hummed with residual energy. its quantum containment field still glowing faintly blue. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. Jumped 11,000 light years, delivered their message, and returned to lunar orbit without the Defiance tearing itself apart at the seams. Sarah, we need to talk. Commander Vasquez stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. Sarah looked up, exhaustion making her eyes ache. If this is about the full drive's power consumption, I know. We use 40% of our antimatter reserves on 2 jumps. We can maybe do 4 more before we're empty. Elena stepped inside, the door hissing shut behind her. It's not about the power. Well, not just about the power. She pulled up a holographic display from her wrist computer. Intelligence intercepted Vakros communications. They're withdrawing half their fleet from Earth's orbit. That's good news, isn't it? It would be, except they're keeping their fastest ships in position, and they've seeded the entire solar system with stealth surveillance satellites. Elena's eyes met Sarah's. They're watching us, studying us, which means every time we test a full drive, every time we power it up, they're collecting data. Sarah felt her stomach drop. They're trying to figure out how it works. Exactly. And if they do, if they develop their own fold technology or find a way to counter ours, we lose our only advantage. Elena sat down on one of the equipment crates, suddenly looking very tired. The politicians back on Earth are calling this a victory. They think we've won, but we haven't won anything. We've just started a race we might not be able to finish. How long do we have? 30 days, maybe less. That's what our analysts estimate before the Vakros either crack the physics or decide to hit us with something we can't defend against. Elena rubbed her eyes. We need more ships, Sarah. Can you build more fold drives? Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. Commander, do you know what went into creating this one? We pulled together every physicist, every quantum engineer, every materials scientist on the planet. We built it using experimental technologies that barely worked in laboratory conditions, scaled them up by orders of magnitude, and prayed it wouldn't collapse into a miniature black hole the first time we turned it on. And we got lucky, incredibly lucky. So that's a no? That's a not in 30 days and maybe not in 30 months. The fold drive isn't like traditional technology. We can't just manufacture more units. Each one requires tuning at the quantum level, calibration that takes weeks, components that we're still learning how to produce consistently. Right now, building a second drive would take almost as long as building the first one did. Elena was quiet for a moment, processing this. Through the bay's small viewport, Earth hung in space, looking deceptively peaceful. Somewhere down there, 8 billion people were celebrating humanity's defiance. They didn't know how fragile their victory really was. Then we need something else, Elena said finally. Another advantage, another surprise. The Vakros think we have one miracle ship. What if we could make them believe we have dozens? Sarah frowned. You want to bluff? I want to multiply our threat without multiplying our actual capability. Could you create fold drive signatures without actually folding? Make it look like multiple ships are jumping in and out of positions throughout their empire. Maybe. Sarah's mind was already racing through possibilities. The fold creates a specific quantum signature when it engages. If we could generate those signatures remotely, broadcast them through conventional spacecraft or even drones, we might be able to create false contacts. The Vakros would detect what looks like fold activity, but no ship appears, making them think we're scouting their territory, watching them the way they're watching us. It would be psychological warfare, Sarah agreed. But there's a problem. The moment they correlate the false signatures with the lack of any actual ship, they'll know we're bluffing. And that might tell them more about the fold drive's limitations than we want them to know. A proximity alarm chimed. Lieutenant Chen's voice came through the intercom. Commander, we have a situation. A small craft just entered lunar orbit. It's broadcasting Vakros identification codes, but it's not military. Looks like a civilian science vessel. Elena and Sarah exchanged glances. A science vessel? Elena said, Here. They're requesting permission to dock. They claim they have information about fold drive technology, and they want it effect. Sarah felt ice in her veins. It's a trap. It has to be. Probably, Elena agreed. But what if it's not? What if some Vakros scientists realize what we've accomplished and want to be part of it instead of part of an empire that would destroy us for it? She stood, decision made. Prepare a quarantine dock. Full security protocols. Scan that ship for weapons, biological agents, quantum explosives, everything. And get our best xenolinguists ready. If this is real, I want to know what they know. 20 minutes later, Sarah stood behind armored glass in the observation deck, watching as the Vakros vessel docked. It was small, elegant, nothing like the brutal military craft they'd seen above Earth. Through the transparent airlock, a single figure emerged, a Vakros female. Her scales patterned what Sarah's briefing documents indicated was the coloration of the science caste. The alien spread her forearms in what the database suggested was a gesture of peaceful intent. When she spoke, the translation software rendered her words in clear English with only a slight delay. My name is Telrin. I am a quantum physicist in service to the Vakros Imperial Science Corps. I have studied your full drive from the sensor data we collected. It is brilliant, elegant, and built on principles that my people abandoned 3,000 years ago as impossible. Commander Vasquez stood on the other side of the glass, hand near her sidearm. Why are you here? Because Admiral Croft 9 has authorized the development of weapons specifically designed to kill your world, not conquer it. Stellar destabilization weapons. Relativistic projectiles launched from outside your detection range. They cannot counter your full technology, so they plan to eliminate the civilization that created it. Telrin's eyes, all four of them, held something that looked like genuine distress. I joined the Science Corps to explore the universe, not to help exterminate species who achieve what we could not. So I stole a ship, falsified my trajectory logs, and came here. What do you want? Elena asked. To help you survive, to help you perfect the full drive, and perhaps, Telrin hesitated, to help my own people see that conquest is not the only path to greatness. The Empire is old, Commander, old and rigid and terrified of anything that challenges its supremacy. You have done that. But unless you can do it again, do it better. Do it in ways they cannot predict. They will destroy you. Sarah stepped forward. You said we built the drive on principles your people abandoned. Why? Because the mathematics required folding space at the quantum level, and every simulation we ran suggested the process would be unstable. That any ship using such technology would experience catastrophic quantum decoherence within hours or days of its first jump. Your full drive should be destroying itself. Why isn't it? Sarah felt her mouth go dry. Because the truth was, she didn't know. The full drive worked, but the theoretical model suggested Telrin was right. It shouldn't. They'd built something that violated their own understanding of physics, and so far it held together through sheer luck or some principle they didn't comprehend. I need to run diagnostics, Sarah said quietly. Elena's expression darkened. Are you telling me this ship is a time bomb? I'm telling you, Telrin said, that you've created something miraculous. But miracles require understanding, or they become disasters. I can help you stabilize it. I can help you understand why it works. And in exchange, you give humanity time to build more, to perfect the technology, to become something the Empire cannot simply erase. The observation deck fell silent, except for the homostation systems. Outside, through the viewports, Earth continued its slow rotation, unaware that the weapon that had saved it might be destroying itself from within. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood in the converted lunar research facility, staring at holographic equations that made her head hurt. Telrin worked beside her, all four of her hands manipulating different sections of the display simultaneously, highlighting quantum fluctuations that human scientists had missed entirely. Here, the Vakros scientist said, isolating a cascade of data from the Defiance's first full jump. Your containment field is bleeding energy at the subatomic level. It's subtle. Your sensors weren't calibrated to detect it, but it's accelerating. My calculations suggest complete containment failure in approximately 43 days, which means the ship tears itself apart, Sarah said, feeling sick, along with approximately 300 kilometers of surrounding space. Yes, Telrin's scales rippled in what Sarah had learned was her species' equivalent of a concerned frown. The fold drive doesn't just bend space. It creates a temporary pocket dimension where normal physics are suspended. When the containment fails, that pocket collapses violently. It's why my people abandoned this approach. We could never solve the stability problem. Sarah pulled up her own calculations, one she'd been working on obsessively since Telrin's arrival. But you're still here. You defected, gave us this information. The Empire could have just let the drive fail and watched us destroy ourselves. Admiral Croft 9 doesn't know about the instability, Telrin admitted. The research was classified at the highest levels, buried in archives from millennia ago. I only found it because I have access to the Science Corps' deep historical database. If Croft 9 knew, he would simply wait for your weapon to become your death sentence. Then why tell us? You could have stayed silent, let nature take its course. Telrin's 4 eyes met Sarah's 2. Because you deserve better than that. Your species looked at an impossible problem and solved it in months. My people had centuries and gave up. That means something. That should mean something. She paused. And because if you die, the Empire learns nothing. But if you survive, if you perfect this technology, maybe they'll finally understand that evolution requires more than conquest. The lab door hissed open. Commander Vasquez entered, her face grim. We got Vakros military activity throughout the Empire. Intelligence says they're repositioning their fastest dreadnoughts. Multiple fleets converging on staging areas just outside our detection range. They're preparing for an assault, Sarah said. Worse. Analysis suggests they're preparing to launch relativistic kill vehicles. Projectiles accelerated to near light speed. By the time we detect them, we'd have minutes to respond, and the fold drive can evacuate 8 billion people. Elena looked at Telrin. Is this your Admiral Croft 9 being patient, or has something changed? Something has changed, Telrin said quietly. She pulled up a new holographic display, showing intercepted Vakros communications. Empress Valshera has lost patience. She's authorized Operation Final Dawn, a coordinated strike using weapons that don't require ships to reach Earth. They'll launch the projectiles from 100 light-years away. Your sun itself will be destabilized using quantum resonance weapons fired from outside your solar system. They plan to kill your world, your star, and everything in between. Sarah felt the floor drop out from under her when... 7 days. They need time to position the assets, calibrate the weapons, and ensure simultaneous impact. The Empire doesn't just want to destroy Earth. They want to send a message to every species in the galaxy. This is what happens when you defy Vakros. Then we fold a defiance into their territory again. Elena said, hit them harder. Make them stop. One ship against prepared defenses? Telrin's scales darkened. They're expecting that. Every major Vakros installation now has anti-fold countermeasures in place. Quantum interference fields that won't stop your ship from appearing, but will prevent it from leaving. You'd be trapped, and they destroy you with conventional weapons. Sarah's mind raced. 7 days. The fold drive was failing. They couldn't build more ships. They couldn't evacuate Earth. And now they couldn't even strike back without being trapped and destroyed. There has to be something, she said desperately. Some option we haven't considered. Telrin was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she began manipulating the holographic display, pulling up schematics of the fold drive's quantum containment system. There is one possibility. Highly dangerous. Almost certainly fatal for anyone involved. Tell us, Elena demanded. The fold drive creates a pocket dimension when it activates. Right now, that pocket is small, just large enough to contain your ship. But if you remove the safety limiters, if you push the quantum field to its absolute maximum, you could expand that pocket significantly. Make it large enough to encompass not just a Defiance, but other objects, other ships, perhaps even a planet. Sarah understood immediately. You want to fold Earth itself. Not Earth. That would require energy beyond any power source in existence. But you could fold a Defiance along with several large asteroids or planetary fragments. Then, instead of appearing in Vakros space and running, You appear inside the defensive perimeter and release the asteroids at relativistic speeds. Kinetic bombardment from within their own shields. A suicide mission, Elena said flatly. You said the containment is already failing. Pushing it to maximum would accelerate the collapse. Yes, the ship would have perhaps one full jump before catastrophic failure. You'd need to position yourselves perfectly, release your payload, and pray the containment holds long enough to fold home. The probability of survival is less than 12%. The lab fell silent. Sarah looked at the equations floating in the air, the beautiful, deadly mathematics that had bought humanity time, but might now demand the ultimate price. There's another option, Sarah said slowly. What if we don't try to come home? Elena turned to her. Explain. We remove all non-essential crew. Minimum personnel, maybe a dozen people who volunteer. We load the Defiance with the largest, densest objects we can fit in the expanded fold pocket, and we fold directly into Vakros Prime's upper atmosphere, or better yet, into one of their shipyards or weapon production facilities. When the containment fails, we're not just releasing projectiles. We're detonating a quantum collapse bomb in the heart of their empire. That would kill millions, Telrin whispered. Vakros civilians, scientists, children. They're about to kill 8 billion of ours, Elena said, her voice hard. Including children. Including everyone we know and everyone we've ever loved. I don't like it either, but if it's between their empire and our species. There might be a third option, Sarah interrupted. Tell Rin, you said the empire is old and rigid. What if instead of destroying Vakros Prime, we prove we could have but chose not to? We fold in, demonstrate that we're inside their shields, inside their defenses, capable of ending their civilization, but then we fold out before containment fails. We detonate the collapse somewhere empty, a dead system, just to show them we can. That's even riskier, Telrin said. 2 folds with an unstable drive? The mathematics suggest near certain failure. But if it works, Sarah pressed, we don't become murderers. We don't give them a reason to hate us forever. We show them we're strong enough to destroy them, but wise enough not to. Maybe, just maybe, that's enough to make them reconsider. Elena walked to the viewport, looking down at Earth. Somewhere down there, her family was eating dinner. Her nieces were doing homework. People were falling in love and making plans for futures they thought were secure. We have 7 days, she said finally. Sarah worked with Telrin, designed the suicide run, so it has the best possible chance of getting us home. I want volunteers only. No one gets ordered to die. And I want options. If we can prove our point without detonating, we do that. But if Vakros doesn't back down, if they keep coming, then we do whatever it takes to save Earth. Even if that means becoming the monsters they already think we are. Sarah nodded, already pulling up new calculations. 7 days to save the world. Again, this time, she wasn't sure even human stubbornness would be enough. Day 7 arrived like an executioner's footstep. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the skeleton crew make final preparations. 12 people. That's all who remained aboard. 12 volunteers who'd said goodbye to families, recorded final messages, and accepted that they were probably flying to their deaths. Commander Vasquez moved between stations, her hands steady despite the weight of what they were about to attempt. Lieutenant Chen sat at navigation, his usual nervous energy replaced by an eerie calm. Telrin occupied the science station, her 4 hands dancing across controls as she monitored the fold drive's deteriorating quantum containment. Cargo bay report, Elena called out. 16 tungsten carbide cylinders loaded and secured. Came the response. Each one weighs 200 tons. If we release them at relativistic speeds inside Vakros space, the kinetic energy alone will be equivalent to nuclear weapons. Sarah checked her own displays. The fold drive was holding together with what could only be described as mathematical prayer. Every simulation said it should have collapsed already. The fact that it hadn't meant either their understanding of quantum mechanics was incomplete, or they were running on borrowed time that could expire any second. Intelligence update, Elena said. What's Vakros doing? Chun pulled up the latest intercepted data. Their kill vehicles are in final launch positions. Quantum destabilization rays are targeting our sun. They're coordinating a simultaneous strike time for, he checked his chronometer, 4 hours from now. The projectiles will reach Earth in approximately 72 hours after launch, traveling at 0.99 light speed. The sun will begin destabilization immediately upon quantum weapon activation. For hours. That's how long humanity had left before the Empire ended their story. How's morale down on Earth? Sarah asked quietly. They don't know, Elena said. Official channels are saying we're in negotiations, that the partial fleet withdrawal is a sign of progress. No point in causing global panic when we might still fix this. She turned to face her crew. Everyone, listen up. What we're about to do is insane. We're going to fold into the most heavily defended system in the galaxy with a ship that's actively falling apart. We're going to position ourselves inside their shields, where one wrong move means we're trapped and destroyed. And if we survive that, we have a full home with a drive that probably won't survive 2 jumps. She paused, meeting each person's eyes. But if we don't do this, Earth dies. Everyone we know, everyone we love, every dream and hope and stupid argument about politics or sports or what to have for dinner, all of it ends. The Vakros Empire erases us and moves on. In 1,000 years, no one will remember humanity even existed. So we're going to fold into their space, and we're going to show them that threatening us was the biggest mistake their empire ever made. Questions? Just one, Chin said with a ghost of his usual humor. If we somehow survive this, do we get medals or psychiatric evaluation? Nervous laughter rippled through the bridge. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. These people, these brilliant, terrified, impossibly brave people, we're about to bet everything on mathematics and hope. Final checks, Elena ordered. Navigation, confirm coordinates. Coordinates locked. We'll fold directly into Vakros Prime's orbital space, inside their defensive shield perimeter, but outside their atmospheric boundary. Close enough to deploy payload, far enough to minimize civilian casualties if things go wrong. Weapons. Tungsten cylinders armed and ready for deployment. Railgun acceleration systems at full power. On your command, we can launch all 16 projectiles within 30 seconds. Telrin, full drive status? The Vakros scientist studied her displays, her scales pale with stress. Containment is at 42% and falling. I estimate we have 1 stable fold remaining, possibly 2 if we're fortunate. The quantum field is exhibiting harmonic instabilities I've never seen before. It's almost as if... She stopped, her 4 eyes widening. Commander, I need to show you something. She pulled up a new holographic display, isolating the fold drive's quantum signature. This shouldn't be possible, but the drive is adapting. The instabilities aren't random. They're forming a pattern. The system is self-correcting, evolving in real time to maintain stability. It's as if the pocket dimension is becoming aware of its own collapse and fighting against it. Is that good or bad? Sarah asked. I don't know. This is beyond any physics I understand. The drive might hold together longer than we thought, or it might collapse even more catastrophically. We're in uncharted territory. Elena looked at the chronometer. 3 hours and 47 minutes, until the Vakros launch their extinction weapons. We go now. We can't wait any longer. If the drive wants to surprise us, it can do that after we've made our point. She moved to the center of the bridge, her hand hovering over the fold activation control. This is Commander Elena Vasquez to all crew. Final authorization for Operation Defiance. We fold in 30 seconds. If anyone wants to back out, do it now. No judgment, no shame. This is beyond what anyone should have to face. Silence. Not one person moved. All right then. Elena's voice was steady. Navigation. Engage fold drive on my mark. Science. Monitor containment every microsecond. Weapons. The instant we're in position, prepare to launch payload. Communications. Broadcast our message on all Vakros frequencies the moment we appear. Everyone else, hold on and pray to whatever you believe in. 3, 2, 1, mark. Sarah felt reality tear. The stars outside the viewport stretched into impossible geometries, colors that didn't exist bleeding across her vision. Her stomach lurched as the ship existed in all places and no places simultaneously. The full drive howled like a wounded animal, its quantum containment field screaming at the edge of collapse. Then they were there. Vakros Prime filled the viewport, massive and gleaming. Orbital stations hung like jewels around it. Defense platforms bristled with weapons. And everywhere, ships. Hundreds of warships that had been patrolling empty space 1 second ago and were now staring at a human vessel that had materialized inside their impenetrable shields. Broadcast. Elena commanded. Park's voice rang out across Vakros space. This is the Earth warship Defiance. We are inside your shields, inside your defenses. We carry weapons capable of devastating your throne world. But we are not here to kill. We are here to prove a point. Alarms screamed across the Vakros fleet. Ships scrambled, trying to target the Defiance, but they were too close to their own installations. Firing meant risking their own infrastructure. Deploy payload. Elena ordered. Chun, calculate trajectory that takes our projectiles past Vakros Prime, but not into it. I want them to see what we could have done. The Defiance shuddered as 16 tungsten cylinders launched from its cargo bay, accelerating at impossible speeds. They streaked past the throne world like falling stars, close enough that every sense in the system tracked their passage, close enough that everyone watching understood. Those projectiles could have struck the planet, could have killed millions, but didn't. Message continuing, Park said. We could have destroyed you. We could have ended your empire today. But we chose not to, because that's what separates us. You threaten extinction when you meet resistance. We offer peace even when we have the power to annihilate. Stand down your weapons. Withdraw from Earth. Or the next time we fold into your space, we won't be so merciful. Sarah watched her displays with mounting horror. Commander, the quantum containment is failing faster than projected. We have maybe 90 seconds before catastrophic collapse. Full drive status? Elena demanded. Charged but unstable. We can jump, but I can't guarantee we'll arrive home intact. Through the viewport, the Vakros fleet was moving now, closing in despite the risk. They'd realized the Defiance was trapped by its own failing systems. Telrin? Elena asked. The Vakros scientist's voice was quiet. We have one chance. If we fold now, immediately we might make it home. The drive is exhibiting those adaptive patterns again. It's trying to stabilize itself. But if we wait, if the Empire's interference fields reach us, we're finished. Elena looked at the planet below. Somewhere down there, Empress Valshera was watching this, seeing humanity's mercy, seeing their power. Would it be enough? Full drive, Elena commanded. Execute emergency return. Get us home. Reality twisted again, but this time it was wrong. The quantum field wasn't just bending space. It was fragmenting, creating pocket dimensions within pocket dimensions. Sarah felt the ship shuddering, heard metal groaning, saw sparks erupting from control panels. Containment at 15%. Telrin shouted. 10%. Commander, we're not going to make it. But the drive was still fighting. Sarah could see it in the data, those impossible adaptive patterns that Telrin had mentioned. The system refusing to die, learning and evolving even as it tore itself apart. The fold drive was doing something that shouldn't be possible. It was choosing to survive. The stars snapped back into normal configurations. Through the viewport, Sarah saw the blessed sight of Earth's moon, the lunar facility, home. They'd made it. Containment failure imminent. Telrin screamed. We need to evacuate the ship now. Alarms wailed. The fold drive was beginning its final collapse, and when it went, it would take everything nearby with it. All hands, abandon ship. Elena commanded. Emergency escape pods, launch immediately. Chun, set the Defiance on autopilot. Get away from the lunar facility before it blows. Move. The crew ran. Sarah grabbed Telrin, pulling the alien scientist toward the escape pods even as the ship bucked and heaved beneath them. They tumbled into the pod together. Chun and Elena right behind them. The hatch sealed. The pod launched. Through the small viewport, Sarah watched the Defiance accelerate away from the moon, its full drive glowing with unstable energy. It had saved them, had bought humanity time, had proven to the Vakros Empire that extinction wasn't inevitable. The ship folded one last time, not to anywhere, just folding space into itself as the containment finally failed. There was a flash of light that didn't belong in normal space-time, a ripple that made reality shudder, and then nothing. The Defiance was gone, taking its quantum collapse to somewhere between dimensions where it could harm nothing. The escape pod's radio crackled. All pods, this is Lunar Command. We're detecting Vakros' fleet withdrawal from Earth orbit. All ships are leaving. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The Empire is calling for negotiation talks. They're standing down. Sarah closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. "Commander," Chin said weakly, "we just folded inside an Empire's shields, threatened their throne world, and survived a quantum collapse. Do we get medals now?" Elena laughed, the sound half exhausted, half hysterical. "Chun, we get to go home. That's better than any medal." Through the pod's viewport, Earth hung in space, blue and green, and impossibly precious. 8 billion lives that would wake up tomorrow, never knowing how close they'd come to ending. Humanity had faced an empire and refused to surrender, had bent the laws of physics themselves rather than submit, had shown mercy when they could have chosen vengeance. Telrin's voice was soft. "Your species is remarkable. I hope mine learns from this." "They will," Sarah said, watching Earth grow larger as the pod descended toward home. "Because we taught them something no empire ever wants to learn, that the species you threaten today might be the one that changes everything tomorrow. And you can't conquer an idea whose time has come." The pod entered Earth's atmosphere, burning bright as a falling star. Below, humanity waited, unaware and alive. And somewhere among the data cores recovered from the Defiance's final moments, buried in quantum readings that would take years to fully understand, was evidence of something extraordinary. The fold drive hadn't just adapted to survive. It had learned, evolved, become something more than the sum of its parts. The technology was gone, but the knowledge remained. And humanity, given time and peace, would build again. They always did. It's what made them human. It's what would make them unstoppable.